Hey everyone, welcome to the Gamification Applied in Self-Development stream inspired by the Fallout TV series and the Fallout games. So recently, with the Fallout TV show, which you might have heard about, I recommend you watch it, it's a great TV show. There's been some renewed interest and some renewed talk about applying gamification to self-development. What does it mean? So let's take a look at how gamification looks in the Fallout games and see how that works over there and see how that would apply to our personal life and generally what the idea of gamification is. So this is the Fallout TV show, and like I said, I think it's a great game adaptation, one of the best, so I recommend you watch it. But going to a Fallout game, let's take Fallout 4 as an example. This is how the character level up, the skill up screen system looks like. And this is going to help us understand what people mean when they say gamification and apply this in real life. So if you look at this thing, you see a bunch of categories of skills you can choose to develop yourself in the game. This is taken from the game. So here on the top, we have a bunch of general categories. We have strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. And you can choose to invest your skill points, which are represented by these stars over here, in some of them or others. You never have enough skill points to be good at everything, far from it. You gain additional skill points as you play the game, but relatively slowly, so you always have to choose. You have to decide if you want to be better at some things or better at other things. You cannot be great at everything. And under these general categories, which you have here on the top, there's more specific skills that you can also choose to invest in, more niche knowledge, so to say, more particular skills. And how you choose to develop yourself, how you choose to combine these skills, because some work better with others and they complement each other, or some don't work well with others, and it's kind of a waste of your development points if you develop two things which don't complement each other, because you could use those development points better. And here already we can see an analogy with real life, so to say. How do you use your time? How do you use your effort to learn new things? And how do you focus your limited time and limited energy and limited learning capability to develop those skills which best work with each other or best do whatever you want to do, whatever your objective is. But it goes to planning. And another thing that you will see in this game and many other games, this is just an example, is that your play style is going to be heavily influenced by how you developed your skills. Or if you want to look at it the other way around, you develop your skills in order to enable a certain play style. So certain characters are going to be much better at shooting enemies. Certain characters are going to be better at using long-range rifles versus pistols. Certain characters are going to be much better at diplomacy, so they will be able to avoid some fights through diplomacy. Certain characters are going to be very good at making money, trading, bartering, and they will be able to use that money to buy some things which other characters would have to fight for instead. So depending on how you develop your character, you will have a very different experience, and that's the point. And this is another similarity, so to say, to real life, and it's another thing that people think about when they say gamification applied to real life and self-development. Depending on what skills you develop, the way in which you play, quote-unquote, life, your work, are going to look different. Let's take a workplace example. If you put all your skill points, so to say, in technical skills, then that will be your hammer, right? And we all know when you have a hammer, you see nails, and we all have our own hammers, but the hammers are different from individual to individual. So every problem you face, every problem you see, your natural inclination is going to be to solve it through technical means, come up with a solution, analyze it, diagnose it, that kind of stuff. Another individual who put most of their skills into communication and working with people and socializing and that kind of stuff, their hammer to solving problem will be socializing, gathering a group of people, gathering opinions, trying to see who can help, enlisting help, and that kind of stuff. So their approach to the same situation is going to be very different. And some of it will be based on their choice of what skills they chose to develop in themselves. So this is the analogy with gamification. And if we want to think about, okay, how would you apply gamification in self-development? It would be taking an example like this and translate it into your life. So you could imagine exactly something like this, but not necessarily this detailed, but make a list of the skills that matter to you. Instead of strength, perception, endurance, charisma, whatever, you would have things that are specific to you, like, I don't know, learn Python, learn communication, and other kind of stuff. And under them, you will have more specific skills, more niche abilities. Like, for example, under communication, you will have at some point assertive communication, or giving feedback, or dealing with conflict. And then you would come up with a scoring system. The scoring system is very important in gamification, like these stars. This system is from 0 to 10 stars. 0 stars meaning nothing, 10 stars meaning maximum in that category. You would come up with a scoring system, you would evaluate yourself, you would give yourself a number of stars for each skill, and then you would also make a plan about which skills you want to develop next. So you would start playing and thinking about developing yourself in terms of, hey, where do I want to put a star? I want to put a star in communication. I want to put a star in assertive communication. I want to put a star in Python development. And then you would go and work to acquire that level up that you can invest in that skill. And in a game, you do that by going out and performing missions and shooting bad guys and whatever. In real life, you would read a book, attend a course, work on yourself to learn something. You would do those kinds of things. So in a way, gamification is just a packaging, a wrapper you put on top of learning experiences, and you make it game-like, and you make it fun, and you make it cool, and you make it interesting through these kinds of things. And the idea is that if you do that, it's going to be more motivating, you're going to want to do it more, and our brains are going to get stimulated by these kinds of things better than not having it. If you want to think of gamification as a more general concept, you can see it everywhere. It depends on how much you want to enlarge the definition and generalize the definition. So if you think about it, school, for example, is very gamified. We have scores, we have grades, we have tests, we have standardized tests, we have competitions, we have classrooms. We have a lot of gamification elements in school. The workplace also is highly gamified. It differs a little bit from company to company, but overall it's a very gamified experience. We have roles, we have titles, like you're this kind of manager, you're vice president, senior vice president, executive vice president. We have grades, like a lot of companies have these, E1 engineer, E2 engineer, staff engineer, M7 manager. So you have a lot of gamification elements. You have certifications, you have badges, you have employee of the month, hero of the quarter, whatever. All these are and can be looked at as examples of gamification elements. So the same idea applied to self-development would mean to create something that is cool, visually looking, game-like, so it feels a little bit more like playing, not like work. You may even use something like this. You borrow a vibe and a theme from Fallout or any other game or universe you like, and you replace these categories with your own categories, and you replace this image with you put your face on it if you're willing to do a little bit of editing, and you create something that is fun. And imagine that you design this for your own personal development needs, and once you print it out, you put it on the wall, and it's going to hopefully help you stick to it better, right? Gamification as a concept is pretty old. So if we look at Google Trends here, it first started popping, well, there was a little bit of spike very early, but it really popped up in 2010. And it rose to a certain level of popularity, and it remained constant ever since then. So it didn't blow up, it didn't go away. as in terms of a trend of popularity. If we compare it to something like, I don't know, say Scrum, we can see Scrum is way more popular than gamification. So, well, it's surprising that Scrum is getting more and more popular in 2024. But anyway, I always have this problem that I think Scrum is like, we all got Scrum, right? We all know what this is like 15 years ago. What are we still talking about it? Anyway, tangent. That's a tangent that I'll end right now. But what I want to say is that gamification is a relative niche concept. So compare it to something like Scrum, which is way more popular. And even Scrum is a niche concept. It's used mostly in the software industry, not only, but mostly. So this is a niche topic, but still, it's holding steady. It's not dying. It's still here with us. There was a period that I remember at least some years ago, at least here in Yash, where everybody was talking about gamification, and it was the buzzword of the day. So I think for a summer or something, everybody thought gamification was going to change everything. I don't think that's the case. So my personal opinion about gamification is it can work really well in certain areas if you use it the right way in the right place. For example, those of you who have smartwatches or whatever type, I'm not advertising a certain brand, and you use them to track your health, track your KPIs, track your sleep, track your workouts. If you have a training plan, you know how addictive these things can be, how they influence your behavior. And they do a lot of that by applying straight out gamification concepts. They take all those health and workout and physical activities KPIs and then present them to you in a gamified way. You have circles you have to fill, you have the lines you have to go to the end, you have scores, and you have level ups. Oh, your VO2 max just increased by 1, well done, and your performance condition is going up and down and whatever. So it's a very gamified experience these smartwatches offer, and it does work. I mean, a lot of people feel compelled to pay attention to these little devices, even though these little devices don't have any actual power over them, but people pay attention to them. So obviously it can work in the right circumstance. I don't think it works all the time. I don't think it works in every situation. And I think one risk sometimes we have with gamification, and one mistake some companies did, is that they try to gamify everything. So, because they look at the concept, it looks cool, and they say, okay, let's gamify everything. Let's gamify the performance management process, the career coaching process, the recruiting process, the learning process, the whatever process, everything, gamified everywhere. And if you do too much of it, I think it becomes boring, it just becomes noise, people get tired of it, and it just becomes annoying and childish, but not in a good way. So I think gamification should be done selectively, because I think, in my personal opinion and experience, one of the powers of gamification comes from the fact that it's a bit different from everything else. So for example, if we go back to this example, and if I want to do something like this for my personal development and actually follow a visual style like this and with animations and characters and stuff, this is different from everything else. So everything else in my life is going to be just normal, boring to-do lists and plans and stuff, and this is going to be very different. And I print it big and I put it on the wall and whatever. And because it is different, it's going to attract my attention and seem fresh and interesting, and it's going to be a bit more likely that I stick to it than otherwise. But if I do everything like this, then it's not different anymore, it's not interesting anymore, and I think it loses its power. So I think gamification works, applied more so in some areas than others, and applied strategically, not everywhere. No, let's just gamify everything. So that's my two cents about gamification applied in personal development. I saw this conversation spurred by this series, because in this TV series, there are some moments where there's some dialogue, some Easter eggs, so to say, where people talk about learning something new or leveling up in a way that refers to the games. And by the games, I mean this kind of level up system like we have here. So this is it. Thanks for joining me. Have a good day.